These elk that roam Prince Albert National Park are supposed to be protected, but that wasn't always the case. In 1959, open season was declared on elk, all because they posed a threat to the political support of the Prime Minister at the time, John Diefenbaker. Harvest is pretty much over by the end of September here in the northern grain belt. But 40 years ago, a wet fall caused problems for farmers. They had to leave their crops laying in the fields. And for the elk that made Prince Albert National Park their home, it was like an all-you-can-eat buffet just outside the park boundary.
They were getting into the wheat fields and the swaths, making a mess.
Cliff Millard is a retired park warden. He watched over the PA Park for 41 years. He wasn't surprised when farmers in the area called on Ottawa for help.
I suppose it was the farmers that complained to the politicians, and then the politicians took it up.
I want to know where I stand.
John Diefenbaker was not only the Member of Parliament for Prince Albert, he also happened to be Prime Minister of Canada at the time. On December 14, 1959, he ordered the elk problem to be dealt with promptly and effectively. No one quite knew what he meant until 48 hours later.
One day the chief warden phoned up and said we're going elk hunting, so we were told to start shooting.
Diefenbaker had okayed a wholesale slaughter. The park wardens were ordered to kill elk. There was no limit, and every animal was to be considered a target. The slaughter lasted that entire winter and into the next. The guns finally fell silent on March 6, 1960. Between the wardens inside the park and hunters outside the park, more than 400 elk had been killed. The herd was decimated, the wardens devastated.
It went against the grain of all the park wardens to be shooting off our elk, which should have never happened. But that's the only ones that could do the shooting was the wardens, so we were told to go and do it.
Cliff Millard's uncle Emmett was also a park warden, one with a special connection to the park animals. He suddenly became a very poor shot.
Done a lot of shooting, but never hit anything. Of course, he loved elk.
No one knows for sure why Diefenbaker ordered the slaughter. The government had other options, fencing off the southern edge of the park or reimbursing farmers for lost wheat. But if it was votes the Prime Minister was looking for, he got them. Diefenbaker was re-elected in the riding for the next 2 decades. Of course, all this happened before conservation and environment were household words, and the elk eventually recovered. But the slaughter left its most lasting impression on those who were forced to do the shooting. For the CBC NewsHour, I'm Bill Waiser in Prince Albert National Park.